Lane 4, representing the Livermore Aqua Cowboys, Brandon Fischer. 5, representing the Livermore Aqua Cowboys, Brandon Fischer. In lane 3, from the Livermore Aqua Cowboys, Brandon Fischer.
Conversation with myself and some really close people and said, do you think should I come back? And I deep down my heart told me yes.
My goal will turn with the lead onto the second half, 102.42 for Fischer. Brandon Fischer was the top seed, 101.06. Out of the morning heats, just ahead of Miguel de Lara Ojeda of Mexico by 0.4 of a second. 50 to go, and leading the way is going to be Fischer, 27.66. A good first 50. And winning the 100 breaststroke will be Brandon Fischer, 59.86. Fischer, happy with that.
You're getting wows from Riley Gaines and wows from the crowd. Where is this coming from?
I don't know. I just went out there and just did what I could and just laid it all on the line and see what happens. Be in the moment.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Sheet Music Podcast, the podcast that admittedly I never talked about music on. Today I'm here with U.S. National Team member Brandon Fischer. Brandon is a 3-time Olympic trials goer. Semifinals in the 200 breaststroke in 2016. Hi Brandon.
Hey, howdy.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm hanging in there. It's a nice Sunday, Christmassy. I figured it's Christmas tree in the background. And yeah, it's kind of nice. I would like the rain. The rain kind of brings a nice scent of freshness to the air.
Yeah, especially afterwards. It's really nice, and I get like the after rain feeling is just nice to be out and about in.
Yeah, it really is. I went for a run this morning and with a friend, and it was really nice.
Awesome. All right, let's get into some questions that I've got here. The first question that I want to bring up for you is, looking back at the progression of your best times and just the way you've progressed in your swimming in general, there was definitely a big jump after you came back to the sport a couple of years ago, and I mean, credit where credit's due. You work incredibly hard, like it's very well earned, but what do you think was the reason for that? Do you think it was something in the pool, something out of the pool, or was it a combination of both?
I believe it was caused more by something out of the pool than in the pool. I was working on my mind and internal stuff that has been holding me back. It has always been a mental struggle for me ever since I entered the world. That has been the focus of my training with Alex Silver, who's my coach, in the last 5+ years, working with him, staying present and not letting the past or future dictate my very being. I had to straighten my life out on a deep level within myself, and I am still in that healing process even today, so I'm no saint.
I remember especially, there was a point at which I sat down and had a conversation with you, and you told me about, I think I was worried about my tech suit, and you told me something that I still think about today and still think about when I'm racing, and it's that it doesn't matter the suit that you're wearing, it matters the work that you've done. That's not the exact quote, but that's just paraphrasing what you said.
Well, that really means a lot to me, man. That's awesome. Yeah, it really does matter the work you put in, and it really, and also, I mean, I'm in the most peak top physical shape of my life, but if this isn't where it needs to be, or getting out of it, then everything that you've done means nothing. It means absolutely nothing. And I know this through trial and error and going through a lot of adversity in my life.
I'm thinking to like a lot of other athletes who are around your age who are just now hitting the peak of their careers and really starting to accelerate and improve. And I'm thinking about how a lot of them bring up the same ideas and the same topics when talking about how they go about their day. In that for them it's they've done the work, they know that they're capable of working hard, but it's for them now it's they have to focus on the mental game and making sure that they're ready to go mentally as well, because they know that they have the physical side of it already down.
Yeah, no, that's entirely true. I mean, they're the mental side and your mental game and who you are as a person is very important. I mean, the mind is a reflex organ. It reacts to like everything. It's a thought factory machine. Produces millions of random thoughts a day, and sometimes, I mean, there's so many thoughts going through you every single day and at every second. But there's times where the mind wants to attach itself to a certain particular thought because based upon a previous experience in the past, and then associating it in the present, that'll dictate your future. And that's a vicious cycle to get in where you're torn away from the present. And it really does matter the kind of people you surround yourself with and how you present yourself and just how you go about your daily life.
Speaking of daily life, obviously time management is very important, and you kind of gave me a perfect segue there, so I'm going with it.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, I'm in college, and time management for me is very important. But for you, you work a full-time job, and you're swimming multiple hours of the day, sometimes multiple practices in a day. And you're still swimming the best you've swum in your life. So how do you handle that? Like, what's the process to handle that?
Well, I will admit it is not easy. I mean, I thought swimming in college and swimming in high school, I mean, as you get older, you start to advance yourself on new levels. There's new challenges that come with it. It is not easy. I mean, it is not a cakewalk. I will tell you. You have no time for anything. But with that being said, you make the time. I mean, there are days where you can waste time looking at your phone and flipping through Instagram or whatever anyone's into these days. And what did you accomplish? Nothing. You got to work on yourself. So it's a juggling act. I have to compartmentalize myself and separate myself from what will come and what has passed. For example, when I am working on a project or doing an experiment with scientists and physicists, I am the responsible individual in that room in a shot operation because I work in lasers, and that's a hazardous situation, and there's a lot of stuff that can go wrong if you don't stay focused at the task at hand. Someone can get hurt. Someone can have bodily injury, or something might break. Very potential to have that happen, and they're just interested in their work. And you got to take the reins you got to take the bull by the horns and say, hey, because they're physicists are like they're up in like Mars, they're up in like Pluto, and you got to bring them down back to Earth and say, yeah, that's a great idea, but we can't do that. All right, you got to be practical with these guys. These guys are theoretical. So basically, their lives are in my hands, and nothing else matters at that point except for being responsible for the lives in my hands in that moment. I have to stay focused on the task at hand, or the people under my care can possibly get hurt, like I said, and you got to be very vigilant in everything and be aware of your surroundings, and even keeping myself safe for that matter. Once I'm at home, got to leave the job at home. you got to leave things. You can't have them overlap. It's really, really hard to do that. Really hard to keep them all, everything separate. So,
I feel like that level of focus though would also correlate and help you in swimming as well. Because having to focus on something that's so potentially dangerous and hazardous almost makes swimming like, okay, if I can do this, I can focus on 2 hours in the pool.
yeah, exactly. And it's yeah, that you're absolutely right. It's it has evolved and changed for me on many different levels. Because um, when I was never good at like math, science, and engineering growing up, and I had a lot of issues, which we'll get into earlier uh, through this podcast, because I like talking about adversity. It is hard for me, but it is necessary to share your story, because it's part of that healing process, and it, if anything, makes feel other people say, I'm not alone. I'm not the only one having to deal with this stuff. So yes, when I got in the pool, and it's amazing how much easier it is, in the sense of like, perspective. I mean, because when you're in high school, that's like your world is very small. Once you expand your inner universe and expand your horizons, you start to create a world for yourself. You start to be a creator instead of, don't be a predictor of the future. Be a creator, because a lot of people want to predict the future, and people can get sucked into that, and that can get boring. Because it's like, what is worth living if you know what's going to happen in the future? Be the creator of your world.
Speaking of not knowing what's going to happen in the future, or well, I guess in this case you might have seen this coming, but obviously that tier pro meet in 2019, 59,800 breaststroke. I watching the race, I could tell how happy you were about that. It was definitely like there was just joy and excitement there. Did you see that coming? I mean, was it something you expected, or was it something that just came up to surprise you that was a product of all your hard work?
I think it was a product of my work and a product of surrounding myself with the right people, which is helpful, because if you're around people that stress you out, then how can you even perform? Stress does a lot of harmful things to the body and the mind and the spirit. So that is a bunch of contributing factors. And when I went in, I had no expectations. Let me be clear. I had no expectations. I just went there with the mindset of, okay, I'm on vacation. And I'm on vacation from work. I'm going to go swim, and I'm going to enjoy this. And I'm with a couple teammates and with Alex. And I had no idea who I was swimming against. Like, I didn't know any names because, quite frankly, I'm the old guy on the block. That a lot of these young swimmers, they're in a different generation of swimming than the ones that I used to grow up with. A lot of them have left, and left the sport and moved on to the next phase of their life. And I'm still around. So when I went in, I just said, I know I'm going to go fast. I felt really good today in the water and this morning. Just go out there. I wasn't thinking about going under a minute, like at all. None whatsoever.
I remember watching that race and seeing how fast he went out in, and I'm like, oh my god, he's gonna do it. But speaking from my own personal experiences, I can really connect with the swimming better when you're surrounded by good people and people who support you. I remember I had a pretty rough time swimming from August to like December of last year. And then when I started swimming with my college team in the spring, I initially wasn't going to do it. I didn't want to do it. I was hesitant about it. And then my mom told me, go to one practice. Just go to one practice and exposure. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. I go to that one practice, and one of my good friends had just come back from college and was swimming on the and that was their first day. And just from that point on, I went on a tear in my swimming. I took a second off of my 50 freestyle in 3 weeks just because I was happy and enjoying it. So I think you're definitely right in saying that you definitely swim better when you're surrounded by good people and people who you enjoy being around.
Yeah, it really does make a huge difference, and I personally can speak from a depth of experience. It has not been a cakewalk for me, with my swimming experience of having a good track record of good coaches and teammates and club teams. So it has been a very rough road for me. I mean, I just want everybody to know that. I mean, yeah, 31, full-time job, going to school still, believe it or not, and training full-time and trying to take care of all myself and all that, and kind of what an adult has to do, without mom and dad around, without mom and dad in the picture. It that pinnacle of success is the top of an iceberg, where it's on top of a mountain of failures and failed experiences and embarrassment and ridicule and criticism, and it's part of that process of just healing and trying to forgive yourself, and it's an ongoing process. It really is, and I speak from the heart.
And I think that just speaks to your resolve as a person towards your goals, to go through so much and have to process so much and then still be able to get on the blocks and swim as hard as you can and focus on what you want to be accomplish and be able to do. And through just speaking to, like, in person, and obviously when we could speak in person,
Yeah.
I've noticed how good of a mindset you have, and I've noticed Coach Alex talks about it too. I've heard him talk about it to the swimmers when he's coaching them. Is you just have such a good mindset on just life in general. At least from my perspective, and just such an ability to focus and dial it in and work hard, and that obviously comes from a lot of time practicing and just honing your mental game. But can you speak to that at all? Can you speak to your ability to just be able to focus so much on so many moving parts and different things?
Yeah, I will be honest. Some days are better than most, but then I have bad days. I'm not wanting to be this person who's put on a pedestal and say he's perfect. He's got everything together because he's got this and he's got that, and look at him, everybody's appreciating. I mean, that can be a huge perception management, and that's what the media has to do. They have to sell people an image about someone, about their life and being successful. I mean, they're not going to talk about negative stuff, but they'll talk about it in the context of how it's tied to their success. So you have to take everything with a grain of salt, and that is hard to do in this social media world we're living in. But living without fear, anger, aggression, instead of being present and loving yourself. I say that 3 times because that is a hard one for me to swallow, and this is really hard to do speaking from someone who had a lot of pain and suffering growing up and had a lot of triggers from the past. And I still have triggers. I have to manage them all the time. And the best way is to find the courage to forgive yourself. And that's a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly process. But you got to do it quickly, because if you don't, you're going to watch the world go by really fast, and you're going to wish that you have done it sooner, because your mind plays tricks on you. And most importantly, learning to forgive yourself and others around you. This is a personal conversation, and with very close people in your life that you have to have it with. You can't just go around telling people all your problems. You do it with people that are in your circle, that you trust, and that you can lean on for support. I'm a Star Wars and Tolkien fan. The scene where Yoda is instructing Luke about not giving into the dark side of the Force, because I don't know which side is which. And he said, you will know when you clear your mind of question and being calm and present. And he tells him, like, the fear, anger, hate, and aggression are those very things. And they'll dominate your entire life if you let them. Having a sense of awareness and discipline is essential to walk whatever path the individual's on. And again, like I say, sometimes I'm on top of it, sometimes I fail miserably at it.
I want to bring up another Star Wars scene that I think is particularly relevant to just life itself, and it comes from one of the movies that people tend to not like. The Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Probably probably one of my favorite scenes from that movie is when Yoda comes to Luke at probably one of his lowest moments and tells him, "Failure is the greatest teacher." And that's just the whole theme of the movie. And no matter whatever problems that movie has, I took away from it that learning from your failures is how you can improve yourself and just be better mentally and personally. And I just that scene came to mind as you were talking about that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a good scene in a good way. Good. That is a good scene, and I have seen that movie. And that's really a good way to look at it, and you have to look at it that way. And I didn't look at it that way for a very long time because I was in the swamp with alligators napping at my feet, and it's kind of hard to think that way when you're in the thick of it. So that is a good one.
Okay, so you're currently 31, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure I had the correct age.
Yeah.
So 31, heading into your 4th Olympic trials at your first U.S. national team, and then I want to go all the way back to 2008. 18 years old, first Olympic trials. What's the difference in mindset there? Because obviously 4 Olympic trials, probably 4 completely different experiences.
Very
I
different.
just wanted to give you a chance to speak to that mindset that you had at them.
Yeah, very different mindset in 2008. Everybody finds 2008 as kind of the big one out of everyone because one, that was kind of the year of a lot of the big titans of USA swimming and the Olympics that year because we've had big names in the sport. And we can name a whole bunch. And my mindset was not a good one because when you're around teammates and a coach that do not make you feel good about yourself, you end up adopting negative thinking patterns, and then you start adopting their way of thinking. And it's hard to and this is something I really want to exercise and really sell the point. It is not worth trying to stick out and be a part of a group of individuals, and especially an organization that, or any organization for that matter, that has these patterns. It's not worth your life and worth your life and time. It is not. You are better off spending your time doing something that's going to improve you. And it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to have a 50-meter grand pool to do stuff. You can do stuff in your garage. I mean, and you can do stuff like there's so many resources out there now that it's like, oh my goodness. I mean, again, it's back to maturity and the individual's desire, but it really is one of those things that, and I felt I was not present at this meet, and not focusing on myself, but focusing on the opinions of others of what they thought about me, and holding on to stuff and taking it personally when it had nothing to do with me at all. Going into my 4th Olympic trials and being on the U.S. national team, I am approaching as a step along the way, and in developing the person I want to be, being the creator of my own world in life. Because at the end of the day, I mean, material is material. No matter how many gold medals you have, I mean, it's all about trying to become the person that you're meant to be.
So obviously, COVID-19 kind of threw a wrench in everyone's plans for the year. Yeah. It definitely threw a wrench in mine. But when I was talking with Tom about a week and a half ago, an example that he mentioned for himself was that he took it as a unique opportunity because he'd had some off years and just some difficult times personally throughout the time after 2016, and even he mentioned in 2016 that he had some difficult times personally. but how he was able to use the shutdown as a unique opportunity to change up his formula, change up what he's been doing for 10 years. And obviously, American records and butterfly events, that change helped him. But I wanted to ask you how COVID-19 affected you, because I think for everybody it was different.
Yeah, it's very different for everybody. I'm very blessed financially that it has not affected me because I'm still working. I was working even when this thing all happened. So I'm very blessed to have that. Mentally, though, it has taken a toll on me. During this time of the pandemic has exposed some deep, unresolved issues in my life that need to be addressed. I have made progress on focusing on myself, but that forces me to face the mirror and my fears and facing myself. And you're alone, and you have to extrapolate and understand. And we all have to at the end of the day live with ourselves, no matter what. We have to live with ourselves. And since the pandemic has thrown everyone's daily lives upside down, we do not have external distractions to deter us from the inner battles we have. We all have a lot of inner battles and inner turmoils going on. It's about the battle for peace. For me, it still goes on. Even in the last few weeks, it's been a little bit of emotional toll for me. So I'm not on cloud nine, but I'm not underneath an underpass. So, but mentally, it's really hard.
I totally agree with what you're saying. For me, it was kind of when the shutdown happened, I was at a point where in my swimming, in my life, just mentally, I will, at least for me, I was doing really well mentally and physically, and then the shutdown happened, and for a while I kept on that high, but then after a while you start to, like, it exposes some personal issues that you didn't realize that were even there. Yep. So I definitely agree with you that it's been hard, but it's also been a time to just use for your own self and being able to work on yourself. And I mean, for me, I started a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd been something I wanted to do for a while, and I'm blessed to have this opportunity to talk to you, and I was blessed to have the opportunity to talk to Tom and just have people who watch my channel. I mean, there's like a dedicated group of like 10 people. They all know who they are, who watch like they know who they are, who watch like every video that I make, and my friends who are supporting me. So I agree with you that the lockdown is difficult, but it presents the chance to work on yourself.
Yeah, it is. You're absolutely right, and it really the hard thing is that facing it, accepting it, coming to terms with it, grieving. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to let it out and grieve with somebody and confess. Not like confess to a priest. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff. Just letting it out and saying that, I screwed up in this part of my life, and I didn't do this very well in my life, and I treated this person really badly. And I wasn't the person that I wasn't living up to the best version of myself because of these certain things. And it's been affecting me for so long. And it's okay to come out of the closet and say that. It's really releasing, it's really relieving. Maybe you have to do it multiple times to just like let it out and then accept it, forgive yourself, and let it go.
I mean, that's just great advice in general, and it's good for people to hear something like that and know that it's okay to have like bad thoughts and be in a bad mental space, just as long as you focus on accepting the fact that this is what's happened to me, this is something that I've gone through, and then letting it go and learning to grow from it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No. I was just.
Oh, okay.
No worries.
Last night you sent me a text talking about how when you watched through the interview with Tom, the part where he's in the little video that I made. I've got a video like that coming for you too. Don't worry.
Okay.
But the part when he's in the car with his teammates, and the later part where he talked about having his teammates around him and the people to support him. And I know you wanted to touch base on that and talk about it, and sort of the opposite of that, of almost having to go it alone and focus on yourself. So I want to give you a chance to talk about that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm glad I mentioned it, because it was very because I hear so many good stories about a lot of these great athletes, like Tom Shields. Respect the guy. I've talked to him. I didn't know him personally or formally until just up until a year ago. I mean, I've watched these guys from afar. I've been very observant in watching how they interact with each other and how they perform. How you perform in the water does reflect what kind of person you are outside of the water and how you feel, because it does show if you're willing to look for it. And in order to be a great athlete, you have to have a great camaraderie of people behind you that support you and care about you and are willing to stick it out and not have any sense of wanting to tear you down because they have personal issues. And sometimes that's given to people very easily, and that atmosphere. Some people have to create it and work harder for it, like me. I didn't have any of that. I've been having to train alone, and I don't have the caliber of people at my level. I mean, I train with not that I down them or anything. I love being around them, and it's enjoyable. It's great. I mean, they've taught me a lot about myself. I train with high schoolers that are half my age, so they're half my age. And Alex has been so wonderful to let me do that. And I mean, I work around my schedule, like I say, and I'm at the end of the day, like after 5 o'clock at work. I mean, I don't train with the high schoolers sometimes because they've already trained from like 4 to 5:30, and I'm just coming in and they're leaving, and it's like, oh darn. But I'm training by myself in a lane by myself, and I'm having to create and be my own pusher. But it does help to have other teammates push you and be there for you in times of crisis, and say, yo, come on, man, you can do this. You got it. Let's tear this up. I have to create that inside my own head, and I have to be my own cheerleader. I don't have a team made of cheerleaders. And this kind of also stems into the upbringing that I've had with bullying. I mean, I've trained by myself since I've ever began doing this sport. And I've been on teams that unfortunately have not been very good. Probably, I would have to say LAC is probably the best team that I've been on, even though they're half my age. But I'll tell you that they're a wonderful group of kids that are 10 times better than the ones that I trained with when I was a kid. By golly, I mean, so there you go.
So I touching base on bullying in general. I've been told, and you've told me about how growing up probably wasn't the best of experiences, and there was a lot of negativity, and I'll let you talk about it as much as you're willing to or are comfortable with. But can you speak to those experiences? And if you, let's say there's like a 10-year-old swimmer watching this right now who is experiencing similar things, can you speak to them and how they would feel and how they can process like people being rude to them or people doing mean stuff to them?
Yeah, this is going to be a hard one to talk about. I will talk about anything and everything that I can, and not
as much as you're comfortable with.
Yeah, as much as I'm comfortable with, and not give too much details away, because I'm still dealing with this. The people in my life that have done me wrong, and the experiences that have hurt me, I mean, they're gone. They're nowhere in my life. They were nowhere in my life anymore. but I carry them with me, and this is part of like traumatic experiences, like people with PTSD. I mean, I have PTSD because another kind of trivia topic. I mean, people don't know this too much about me if I mention it, and I mentioned it to Tom Shields when I was in Iowa, and Nathan Adrian was there, and they're like, "Whoa," because I said I got bit in the face by a dog when I was 6 years old, right here. I mean, it was my own dog, and it bit me, like literally, because I hugged it and had a hard tumor. And it's I love telling this story because this dog taught me a lot about life. The dog was a great teacher, but he didn't say anything. That's what's strange. But body language says a lot about how body language is something that goes completely over people's heads in this day and age. It's amazing. So I had to get like 20 plus stitches because they ripped my mouth open. And I still have the scar right here.
I can see a little bit of it.
Yeah. I won't go too gory about it, but yeah, I just have this scar, and I look in the mirror sometimes, and I just it's a kind of a token of a reminder about making sure you respect other people's space, and but also you have to set your own boundaries too. The dog that bit me in the face was giving me signs and telling me stay away from me, because he would, like, hey, look at my teeth, you're in my space, don't get near me. And saying that people would be like, oh, he's smiling at you, oh, go hug him. No, he don't like you. Or like or his ears go back, or he's growling. Little subtleties. I mean, it goes over people's heads. So this is the thing that a lot of people don't get when it comes to bullying. No means no. Okay. So, but the person that's being bullied the person that's bullying has been bullied themselves, and so bullying has always been there throughout my grade school upbringing, and into college as well, which was even worse. Which is even worse of the things that once you get people with a bunch of people together away from mom and dad, and it's they just go cuckoo, they lose it. It will always be there no matter what. That is one thing you have to accept. Number of factors is I let it happen. Now, this is another thing that if anyone who's 10 years old needs to be watching this, listen to what I'm about to say here. I let it happen. You cannot control what people say or do, but you can control your reaction to it. Mahatma Gandhi, he overthrew the British government out of India without even lifting a finger. Okay, that's huge. So I mean, you hear, or Dr. King, he was a non-violent man that was able to invoke the civil rights movement. Okay, so that kind of courage, and because they want a response out of you, first off, because that's the world that they know. That's all they know, and that's all that. And so you can't let it dictate you. And that's easy to say now, but when you're in the thick of it, it's not easy, because it was a constant thing I had to deal with all the time. But it clouded my judgment to look through the veil and see the beautiful people that were actually there for me, my family, my relatives, my church, my family. I mean, like, certain people that were there don't make that one person like the pinnacle of the center of the universe. Because one person, there's dozens of good people out there. It's just the brain loves to attach to negativity because it's easy. It's easy to be negative, and you just can't control what other people say. Only your response. It is easy now, but when you're in the swamp with the alligators, like I said before in the analogy, when they're snipping at your ankles, it's hard to extrapolate that lesson. But you have to be very, very vigilant, very paying attention to it. And that is why you have to work on your why. Why are you here? If the answer is not there and it says you do not belong here, go. Okay? Just, you have to listen to the inside of yourself. Don't let the outer voices penetrate and hijack your inner voice and hold it hostage, and they replace that inner voice with something false. That is very dangerous, and it'll lead you astray into a direction that doesn't benefit you. And create your vision for yourself and protect it. Okay? And I am sure it has not come to stay. it has come to pass. It is a sliver of a moment in time. And the key is to forgive yourself. Again, understand that everyone is fighting a battle inside themselves. Be focused on the people that you have a positive impact on, and ignore the naysayers. Don't try to prove them wrong. Just ignore them, because they are lost, and the only thing that can save them is themselves. Okay, and at the end of the day, people have to live with themselves. There's no escaping that fact. You show your enemies love and compassion. They will get angry because they have never received such feedback before in their life. Be the captain of your ship, or someone else will, as I always say. And that's what you have to focus on. It's essential. It's essential, and it's dominated. And I speak from experience where it has dominated my life, and I'm still trying to forgive myself for it, because there were so many years of unknown potential of if I could have gone faster. But it's not my fault. You deal with the cards you're dealt with. Just do your best you can. And that's really hard.
So I'm hearing what you're saying, and first of all, it's wonderful advice and very positive, or not. It's just it's good words to listen to. It's good words to process and listen to and act on and improve yourself from. And I'm thinking back to when I first started swimming year-round. When I first started, about 5 years ago at this point, I started swimming like daily. There was a swimmer on my team who I did not get along with. I grew to really, really dislike this person, and after a while I realized, wait, but we have so much in common. We have so much like that we can connect on and become friends on, and then through using love and compassion and friendship, and now this person's become like my best friend, which I think it's a weird turnaround to think that this was somebody I used to really not want to talk to or be around, to now it's someone that I talk to every single day. That was just what came to mind as you were talking about, like, using love and compassion against the people who are negative forces in your life.
Yeah, they're fighting an inner battle as well. I came to find out a lot of the people that bullied me, they had terrible family lives. They went home to an abusive family or a broken home where there were mom and dad weren't together and they were living with their grandparents. And then they start to question, why do they exist? And they have some that never even met their parents, or some that fight with their parents every night. And that I don't blame them. Well, there's no pointing fingers here at all. I'm going to say that right now. I don't down people for the pain that they've endured. They have to take personal responsibility and make sure that they leave the baggage. And it's easy to say that when you're not in it. Okay, I mean, I've never experienced having a broken home, and that's easy for me to say. But yeah, I'm not going to give advice to tell the person that's in pain how to live their life. No, I'm just telling the person who's going through pain of why am I being bullied is because that person also has fighting inner battles as well. And that's what I've learned.
Before we finish with some more fun, like not necessarily more fun questions, but just some smaller ones that are probably a little bit fun for you too.
Yeah.
I wanted to give you a chance to, if there's anything that we didn't talk about today or touch base on that you wanted to bring up or talk about, I wanted to give you that opportunity to. So like you have the floor to talk about whatever you want to talk about.
Well, no, I appreciate you giving me that option. Yeah, I think I guess I can talk about. Yeah, I mean that's a hard question.
It's a curveball.
Yeah, it's a curveball, but I've really I think I want to say I covered everything, but I
just wanted to make sure I didn't
yeah
inadvertently leave something out that you wanted to talk about.
Well, no, a fun trivia. I guess a fun trivia thing about my beginnings of my swimming career. I started swimming my first time in a pool that is at the place that I work now at Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. There used to be a pool, a big diving well pool that was built back in the 40s. Because out here in Livermore, where I live right now, it used to be open field in the Tri Valley. No homes. Like it was open field for as long as you can. Because there used to be a naval base, and the naval base had barracks and officers on it to train naval pilots to go off to World War II to learn how to land their planes on a runway, makeshift runway. And when the war was over, they didn't know what to do with this. So that's what happens when war ends. You have all these base closures, and they turned that piece of property into what we know now as Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. And the pool was just a part of that infrastructure by chance. And they kept it for reasons that I found out later were for an emergency pool of emergency reservoir of water in case a fire broke out or something for the firefighters. But it was open to the public. You could go in there and you could swim. And I first started doing swim lessons when I was in diapers with my mother. So I was swimming before I could talk, before I could walk. I was swimming and putting stuff together. So, and I was doing that for 3 months every year until I started doing year round at 11 and a half. And that was in 2000. So. And I just remembered something else that I wanted to talk about. It goes on to the deeper level of my personal struggles, and I want people to know about this. Years ago, I didn't want people to know about it because I was scared about being judged about it. But I have a learning disability, believe it or not. And it's called Mixed Receptive Expressive Language Disorder. And it's a delay in speech, a delay in the auditory process of where if you hear something, it doesn't come out quick enough, and I didn't speak till I was 5. So I was in special education, I was in resource, speech therapy, all these different educational programs that I was doing for a very long time, and it was really hard. And I would had a lot of social anxiety too, which I still deal with, and that didn't help a lot either. So, but I just want people to know that. But now I work for a scientific institution, and I'm an engineer. Well, yeah, I'm not a professional engineer by their standards, but I do a lot of engineering and a lot of science, and I play with a lot of expensive Legos. It's so much fun. I feel like I'm the biggest nerd on the block, which is hilarious. I love it. I mean, you work with nerds. I mean, lasers. Come on. So that I wanted to share with people, because that is something a lot of people don't know about me, is that I have a learning disability. But you would not have known that, because someone mentioned to me the other day when I did a podcast for somebody else, they said, "Man, you're so articulate and so intelligent and smart when you talk." I was like, "Oh man, phew." I mean, but that's what's funny, is people's perception. They only know what they see on the outside.
I think that again speaks to just over time the ability that you've created for yourself to work hard and focus on yourself and better yourself through hard work and practice. I think that just speaks to that ability that you have, that even if one day is not great or not what you want, there's ways to make the next day better through your actions and through the work that you do. Okay, so some more fun questions. So obviously you mentioned Lord of the Rings and Star Wars. So I need to know, what's your favorite Star Wars movie and your favorite Lord of the Rings movie?
Ooh, okay. This is a very good question. I when it comes to it's funny how as time went on, I started changing my perspective of Star Wars and how it relates to my life, and also Lord of the Rings and Tolkien, the world of Tolkien. The Empire Strikes Back, I would have to say, is my favorite one, because again, it's back to the lessons of what Yoda was saying and how he lifted the X-wing out of the water, and he's just like, "I don't believe it," and Yoda goes, that is why you failed. You didn't believe in yourself. And for a long time, I didn't believe in myself because I believed, again, back to what people said about me. And the Tolkien, man, darn, that's a hard one. I mean, I've read the books. I've read the books multiple times. I have like an encyclopedia of Tolkien, like, and I've read the Silmarillion and all the unfinished tales of Numenor. It's really hard to dissociate myself from the movies, from the books. But if I had to say, I would have to say The Return of the King is probably my favorite, because once you start to get to know the characters, you have certain characters you start growing fond of because of their journey and their story and their background and how they're dealing with their hardship.
For me, my favorite Star Wars movie is for total opposite reasons. I play music. I play music, so I've grown really attached to the themes and the meanings behind certain soundtracks and movies. Mm-hmm. And I really, really like Return of the Jedi, mainly for the music, and specifically singling out the scene, the last scene of Luke fighting Darth Vader, and the music that plays in that scene, because it's right after Darth Vader realizes that Leia is his daughter.
Yeah,
and I felt like the music in that scene really reflected the conflict in Luke himself and just the anger that he was feeling. I could go on for hours.
Yeah, no, this is fantastic. I mean, yeah, I'm actually glad you brought this up.
For Tolkien, I really like the book The Hobbit, but not the movies as much. And then also Return of the King I really like Return of the King. And I got two more fun questions lined up. Okay, so sure. This one's swimming related, and it's just for me out of pure curiosity. Well, okay, actually 3 more, but one of them is really short.
Oh, okay.
Were you aware that the time that you swam in the 50 breaststroke at that Tier Pro meet in 2019, had that time been done 2 weeks earlier, technically you would have qualified for World Championships?
That I didn't know, but I knew that it was. I knew I was like in the top two, but I didn't come to think that I thought they already had selected their teams.
Well, they select them by June 1st. It's a weird process that they do it.
See, I'm learning.
for the 50s of stroke, they select it's the top 2 June 1st, the year of the World Championships. But technically, that time that you swam was the second fastest done by an American.
Wow.
Okay. It's weird because Luca Orlando went 153 in the 200 fly and didn't make the World Championship. It's such a weird selection process.
Yeah, I mean, that meet was off the hook. A lot of people were raving about that one.
Okay. My other swimming related fun question is, were you ever approached about the ISL, or have you ever thought about the ISL?
Well, I've never been approached about it. And no one's ever talked to me about like someone saying, "Hey, come join the ISL," and no one has ever approached me. Probably for many reasons. We can shoot darts at a wall, and it's probably not true because we won't know until we actually do it. The thing that knowing going into this when I first started working full time, because I financially could not support my Olympic dreams and my goals of being with this, because I'm not sponsored. I'm professional, but I'm not sponsored by anybody by all means. I'm financially pushing this myself, and it's been wonderful with the Livermore Valley Tennis Club and Livermore Cowboys and how they've been able to support me and the families and the parents and the kids and the owner, and so they've never approached me about it, and because it would be hard to do it, like go to Budapest for 6 weeks because I'm working full time. Yeah. The laboratory won't let me do that kind of stuff. I mean, that's the thing that a lot of these swimmers I think have fears about joining the workforce, because they want to fulfill things early in life so that they don't look back and say, you know, I shoulda, woulda, coulda. I mean, that's kind of my reason for keep going for as long as I have. It's painful, to say the least. I mean, but it's more painful knowing that it's better to know than not to know.
There's that exact phrase. I remember a very emotional interview from Missy Franklin in 2018 after U.S. Nationals. She was talking about she'd rather work as hard as she can and do everything she can and more to reach her goals and fail than not try and give up and wonder what could have been. I think that's the connection I made there, at least.
Yeah, and that's I can agree more. I mean, it's back to the not letting fear and impulsive emotions kind of dictate your decision making process. My college experiences and choosing which colleges I wanted to go to, it was not good to say the least. So I let fear, emotion, and not being honest with myself and listening to myself and drowning out the outer noise and listening to that little quiet voice inside you that says, don't do this, do that. This is what you're meant to do.
Okay, so my last like fun question before we wrap things up is, have you been watching The Mandalorian?
No, I have not, because I mean, this goes back to, I mean, people have talked to me about it, and then I've not watched it. It goes back to I'm extremely busy. I don't watch television, to be honest. I don't have time. I mean, I'm going to school and working and training, so and trying to feed myself and do all the things that I'm sacrificing for something greater than myself. Television is not. I put a lot of that stuff away. Like, I don't play video games anymore. So I mean, at all. So because I just don't have the time. I don't have the time. And
totally understandable. I was just trying to give some more fun questions, just some stuff for you to laugh about too. All right.
Questions.
Brandon, this has been amazing and an honor to have you here. I really appreciate your time. We went a little bit over than with Tom too. I said max like 45 minutes, and then we went for like an hour, which I'm not against. I just it's just the way it ended up happening. But I really appreciate your time and being able to have you here. So thank you so much.
No, you're welcome. My pleasure.